Welcome in, everybody, to another week of UFL Weekly. I am Kyle Krajewski, joined by Mr. Incredible Zach Cole. Zach, welcome to week 5. How's it going, my man?
It's going pretty well. I cannot complain too much. It was another great week of spring football. We're starting to kind of get some lines in the sand now with wins and losses and divisions and all that good stuff. And I think we're starting to be able to sort out who's the contenders and who's the pretenders. So I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Yeah, I think I saw a few comments saying that it feels like with all football leagues, you need 3 weeks of some sort of
hmm
play, whether it's
hmm
preseason or just like getting those first 3 regular season games in. And then you start to see, like, oh, okay, these are who these teams are, especially here in the UFL where there is no preseason. It's just right into action. So week 4, it's almost like we saw the true identities of these teams,
hmm
especially after some coaching shakeups, some injuries, kind of forcing some new starters. We definitely saw uh, some true identity this week.
Sure. Yep, for sure. Well put.
One bit of news: Battlehawks quarterback, unfortunately, Manny Wilkins was added to IR. He is. They haven't said officially, but I think he's done for the year. I think it was an Achilles injury. No specifics mentioned, but it looked Achilles. Um, so Battlehawk signed quarterback Brandon Silvers, who was with the team last year, and looks like they'll be rolling out Max Duggan moving forward. And then just rolling right into last week's scores. I call it the week of wake ups. We had Arlington cooking, defensively at least. St. Louis really needing an O line. Houston figuring things out on both sides of the ball, and San Antonio getting their first win in really, really good fashion. Showboats lost to the Panthers 27-9. Renegades again put a beat down on the Battlehawks defensively, winning 30-15. Birmingham Stallions came away with a late win against the Roughnecks 23-16, and the San Antonio Brahmas beat the undefeated at the time DC Defenders 24-18 to wrap up the weekend on Easter Sunday, and that was a fantastic game to wrap up the weekend.
hmm Definitely, yeah. There was a lot of highlights this weekend. I think you can
Yeah.
kind of just from the scores you rattled off there. The scoring has kind of ticked up a little bit. We're starting to see some more
Yep.
competition, some more higher level games. Only the showboats were under 10 points this week, which is overall I would say a pretty healthy sign for the league as a whole. And like you mentioned, Kyle, we really got a great game to end off the weekend with the Brahmas and the Defenders.
Yeah. All in all, I think it was a fantastic weekend of football that I think is a great stepping stone to kind of the rest of the season, where we'll see offenses kind of finally figure things out, get things moving a little bit better, and defenses uh, probably step up even just as big. I mean, specifically the Renegades, we saw they had 2 defensive touchdowns to kind of really put a scoring stamp on that team, on that game. Um, I think we're really seeing some of the best spring football, and I think we're just starting to see that this season.
Yeah, for sure. With that being said, Kyle, why don't we hop into the Week 5 preview here?
Let's
As we
do it.
mentioned a couple times now, the league is starting to kind of separate itself. So we are definitely getting some higher tier teams, some lower tier teams, and I think that that's kind of illustrated in this first game of the week, which is going to be the Memphis Showboats at the Birmingham Stallions. That is our Friday game. So when
Oh
this is
yeah,
coming out, it is going on tonight as we speak. So that is an 8 p.m. game and is between, like I said, the 0-4 Showboats and the 3-1 Stallions. Birmingham is favored in this game, kind of unsurprisingly, by 11.5 points, and the over/under is currently at 37.5. I think that's a little on the lower side because of the slow Memphis offense for sure.
yeah.
A couple points, couple game notes here for the week. For Memphis, they do have one single bright spot. I don't want it to be all gloom and doom for them. Jonathan Adams is
Oh yeah.
is a pretty nice piece for them. He's leading the league in yards and receptions, despite having kind of backed off and taken a little bit of a lesser role the last couple weeks to Kwame Lassiter. But we are getting a new quarterback behind our under center with Dresser Wynn for the Memphis Showboats. So it just kind of seems like we're trying to shake things up and hope that something pans out for Memphis, who's kind of desperately just looking for answers at this point. This is back-to-back pretty poor seasons for them in our current rendition of the UFL. So they're just looking for answers. So hopefully Dresser Wynn will shake things up, and who knows, maybe you can push the ball downfield a little more, find Adams and Lassiter in the end zone, and make something shake. So, but on the other side, Birmingham, Case Cookus is getting the start. Corral's a little banged up coming into this game, so Cookus did see some action late in last week's game for Birmingham against the Roughnecks. But again, he is coming in to make this start. But the defense is also missing some key pieces. Ronnie Perkins, Kenny Robinson, Mario Goodrich, and Fionn Hicks are all missing this week's game because of injuries or something along those lines. So Birmingham isn't operating at full strength, but I think with all that being said, I still think that they're the better team in this one. But that doesn't matter right now because, Kyle, I want to hear your picks. Once again, Birmingham is 11.5-point favorites, and the over-under is at 37.5.
Yeah, I think the only thing I want to mention before I get to my picks, Jim Turner, the head coach, really sounded frustrated with this team. It seemed like they kind of went into last week specifically with the Wizenhunt offense, and he was just like, this is not how it's going to work, and it
This
clearly wasn't.
stinks.
So they're like, we got Mazzone here as our OC now. He's taken over, and it kind of really nailed in that they were going to start running his offense. So hopefully we see some movement here for Memphis.
Yeah, for sure. For
But
sure.
still, with the line at 11.5, that is insane. I'm going to, oh God. Birmingham's playing at like 60% speed with what they're dealing with. 11.5? Give me Memphis plus 11.5. I feel like 11.5 is insane. Do I think that Birmingham could win by 12? Yes, I do. But I'm gonna take the plus here. So give me Memphis plus 11.5.
Okay.
Give me the under though. I think that's really the key piece here. I think it stays under, and because of that, I think it stays closer than 12 points. Jesus.
Yeah, 12's a hefty margin here. However, I'm taking it. I'm going to go
Ooh.
Birmingham minus 11.5. I think that despite Dresser Wynn being a new face in there, I think they're just maybe trying to put lipstick on a pig at this point, and it just is what it is. It's not a very good offense. So I'm going to go minus 11.5 for Birmingham, and I'm going to also go with you on the under here, Kyle. I don't think that Memphis is built to score many points, and I think for that reason, 37.5 is pretty high. So I'll stay under.
Hey, wait a minute. I noticed you skipped our results last week.
What? What are you talking about?
I finally had a winning week, a positive week. I went 5-3. Zach, you finally went a little bit below 500. Went
Yeah,
3 and
wasn't a
5.
good week. Wasn't a good week.
It's all right. You're still beating me on the season long. You're currently sitting at 16-15. I'm at 14-17. We're floating. Zach, this is the week it turns around. I'm coming
I
for
like
you.
to think I like to think that I thrive when the league is just chaos and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And you thrive when the logic kicks in, you know? And
Yeah,
we just live in the in between.
I make the logical picks. You're the chaotic picks, and when it's chaotic, you win. But when it's like,
That's
oh
it.
wait, this actually makes sense. This is how that game was supposed to go. It's like, oh okay, Kyle's right.
Yeah, so it'll rebound in the next couple of weeks. Just give it some time.
Speaking of chaos, the Battlehawks are chaotic right now.
Yes, they are.
And unfortunately, I think it's because of Manny Wilkins going down. All hopes to a speedy recovery there.
Yeah, for sure.
But on Saturday night, 7 p.m., the Michigan Panthers travel into St. Louis to take on the Battlehawks. The Panthers are currently 3-1. Battlehawks are 2-2. Lost a tough one last week. Michigan side, Bryce Perkins continues to cook at quarterback. Back-to-back weeks of offensive player of the week. Last week he had 200 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 45 rushing yards. However, as of this recording, it is Thursday. Mike Nolan is presently undecided at quarterback. Mike Nolan is taking the, I guess, the educator, the caring route on here. Doesn't believe a starter losing his starting spot because of injury. I think the premise there is you were the starter. I've already seen what you can do to name you starter. And as of right now, it seems like Danny Etling is going to start or be healthy enough to play. I think it's likely we see both of these players hop in this game if both are healthy. So if Etling is healthy, I think we see both Etling and Perkins. It's going to be interesting. This team though can run. They last week they had 2 guys run for over 50 yards and a touchdown in Toa Taua and Nate McCrary. Taua with 53 yards and a touchdown, McCrary with 60 yards and a touchdown. This team overall is banged up though at running back. I think we're going to see a committee here all season or for the next few weeks as they kind of get back to full strength. I think regardless, this is a 2 running back, 3 running back team. So shake up in the backfield at both quarterback and running back this coming week. On the St. Louis side, last week they just got punched in the face right off the bat with Wilkins going down, fumbling the ball, and Arlington scoring on that. So it was like they were just playing catch up all game. So they lost Wilkins for the season. And Coach Beck had kind of admitted that Duggan hadn't had many first team reps last week. So they kind of put him in. It was just like, all right, what do we have to figure out here? The O-line is beat up, and is quite honestly their biggest weakness. Abdul Beecham is still injured. I don't think he's playing this week. He's their biggest line. However, they do get Hakeem Butler back at wide receiver, one of the best receivers in this league. So hopefully St. Louis gets some non-screen passes going in this game. But with all that said, Michigan is currently favored to win at a -2.5 line. Over under set at 37.5. Zach, what have you got?
Well, I'm going to, despite the Panthers' lack of clarity in the backfield at quarterback with Etling and Bryce Perkins, I think Bryce Perkins should be in the MVP conversation at this point. I think every time he plays and he's in the game for them, good things happen, and he provides them with such a positive spark. So I think that's a big deal for them. And I think that St. Louis losing Manny Wilkins is a big deal. I think Max Duggan is okay, and I think he'll be fine. But I do think that this team rolled with Wilkins, and losing him is going to hurt more than I think they're prepared for. So for both of those reasons, I'm going to go ahead and take Michigan -2.5. Despite being in the Battle Dome, I think that Michigan seems to be putting it together and figuring it out. We talked about their defense last week. They put on an offensive show this week, putting up 27 on the poor showboats, but still 27 points is 27 points. So I think that Michigan -2.5 is going to be my pick here. And for my over-under pick, I think I'm going to take the over. I don't see it being a crazy high-scoring game, but I do think that Vegas nails this line, and frequently it's right around 38, 39 total points. So I'm going to go ahead and say over 37.5 on this one.
Zach, I'm going to be boring and join you on both of those picks.
That's okay.
I'd like to state, however, when these lines were posted the other day, Michigan was put at +1. So St. Louis was favored
Wow.
to win this
Interesting.
game, which I think is bonkers. St. Louis is a good team, but I think Michigan is a better team. And I think St. Louis is too beat up, unless they're putting a lot of weight on Jacob Sailors, that running back. He's fantastic as well.
Hmm.
However, I think they're still figuring out that quarterback and offensive line play. So yeah, I'm joining you. The boring route. Michigan minus 2.5. And I'd like to see some points. I think we're seeing some scores here over 37.5.
I love it. Moving on to our third game of the weekend. We do have two Sunday games, it looks like. So this is the first of our two Sunday games. This is the DC Defenders at the Arlington Renegades. It is a 12 p.m. kickoff. We did see DC lose their first game last week, which was a little
Can't believe it.
surprising to a San Antonio team that was trying to figure things out, but clearly they did. So DC is coming off a loss, and Arlington's coming off a very good win, as you alluded to in our Battlehawks recap against the St. Louis Battlehawks. So a couple notes. This is battle for first in the XFL conference.
Oh
So
yeah.
whoever wins this game will take sole possession of first place as they advance to 4-1, and the loser will be 3-2. DC
Yeah.
struggled this past week. It was a great game between them and San Antonio, but they can't punch the ball in. That was something we talked about last week. Whether it was Teamu, whether it was Abram Smith, they struggle when they get down in the red zone. So they keep stalling out, and that's definitely an issue for them. And I think it cost them a loss. So
Yeah.
it's something they need to figure out moving forward. Teamu did have to run the ball a little bit more, and he's really good at it. That should be a part of their game plan. I'm thinking all the way back to when we did our XFL podcast, Kyle. That was their MO, was Abram
Yeah.
Smith, Teamu on the ground. They were
Jeez.
pounding the ball. And it seems like they've kind of gotten away from that recently a little bit. I think maybe it has to do with Teamu being a little bit on the older side now. Maybe they're trying to protect him, but still, it's clearly one of his strong suits. And he threw for 299 yards. He definitely looked like the offensive player of the week, even though Bryce Perkins won the offensive player of the week.
I think with the win he would
It's
have had it.
That's what I was thinking. I think the loss kind of hurt him there. So it was still a good game, and I think moving forward with this week, it'll be an even better game between them and Arlington. So on Arlington's side of the ball, man, it was a defensive performance. They were stout on the defensive side of the ball. 6 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 2 defensive touchdowns, which kind of segues me into the next point. But I don't want to overlook there was also a 102-yard pick six to stop a potential game-winning, game-tying
Yeah.
score from Gene Harris, who was the defensive player of the week. But anyhow, going back to those defensive touchdowns, that means the offense didn't score a whole lot in this game, and that's kind of the key point with Arlington right now. They have a big fat asterisk right next to their name because they're still trying to figure out what's going on the offensive side of the ball. And we know Luis Perez is a good quarterback. We know that this offense has potential to be one of the top offenses in the league. I mean, running the ball, Kalen Balaj is second in rushing yards. Hunter is fourth or fifth or sixth in rushing yards too. Like they've got dudes, but they just can't seem to figure out how to get it going and get on the same page. So if they can figure out that chemistry, they're going to be in business since this defense seems to be for real. So with all that being said, we've got a great matchup on this Sunday early afternoon slate here. Arlington is favored by 3.5 points, which is a little surprising to me, but the over-under is set at 39.5. I want to hear your takes on it, Kyle.
Yeah, 3.5 is kind of insane, but I think DC missing Ty Scott hurts them,
Mm-hmm.
continues to. Give me DC. Maybe it's the homer in me. Give me DC plus 3.5. Maybe they lose by 3. Maybe they lose by 2. I think 3.5 is absurd between 2, 3, and 1 teams. So yeah, I'm taking DC plus 3.5. Give me the under though. 39.5 is high. Is that the highest on this
Mm-hmm.
slate? Yeah, between two defensive.
Yeah.
Unless this is all defensive scoring, I don't see this really jumping up over 40. Um, that'd be an interesting game though. Don't think I'm not rooting for that. But I think this is a defensive matchup between two offenses that have some limitations. So give me DC plus 3.5 and the under.
I'm going to go opposite of you on my spread pick here. I'm going to go Arlington minus 3.5. It scares me too. It scares me too, and I feel like this is a chaos pick, Kyle. That's what I'm calling this one. I'm officially stamping it
Deal.
as a
I'm
chaos
in.
pick. But I'm going to follow suit with you on the under in this one. We've touted these two defenses for the last couple weeks. We've praised them. We've talked about how great they are, and I think it would just be foolish to just expect it to just be an offensive shootout out of the blue. I'm not saying it can't happen because this is the XFL, or I'm sorry, the UFL, and sometimes it's weird. It happens, but I do expect this to be a generally lower scoring game between two good defenses.
Love it. Final game on the block here. Houston Roughnecks versus the San Antonio Brahmas Sunday at 3 p.m. Both teams are 1-3, both recently getting their first wins. This is they may be sitting at 1-3, but I think this is two teams that are, to me, turning things around. We saw San Antonio get their first win last week. We saw the Houston 2 weeks ago get their first win, but last week put up a really good fight against Birmingham and kind of find their identity, especially with Jalen McClendon now at quarterback. So
Mm-hmm.
Houston, they're rolling with Jalen McClendon after having a really good week last week, after being thrust into action kind of early into that game. Had 300 or 236 passing yards, a rushing touchdown. Dude has a cannon. And then head coach CJ Johnson says they need to run the ball a little bit better. So hopefully being able to air it out allows them to be able to run it, because McClendon led the team last week with 17 rushing yards. So I think we'll see a little bit more running action here from Houston. I don't know how successful it'll be, but I think they're really trying to get that to run effectively to get the pass game, but maybe the pass game working effectively helps the run game. On the Brahma side, Peyton Party stepping in second week as head coach, but first week officially as interim head coach, stepped in and came away with a really good performance, getting their first win. I'd like to shout out Matthew Sexton, returning a punt, earning the special teams player of the week to help give the team a 12-0 boost early in that game in the first quarter and kind of keeping that lead throughout the game. This offensive line is my MVP, though, for this team. They kept a DC team that leads the league in sacks out of the backfield, giving up no sacks. And against DC, that is huge. And that was kind of really what helped them stay ahead of them. So this is, I think that's a large part of their identity, allowing the passing game, the run game to work effectively. I'd like to especially shout out running back Anthony McFarland, kind of being the guy there. Um, this is a team that is figuring things are clicking there. Same with Houston, especially with McClendon having a full week as a getting starting reps here, practice wise. I think we're in for a good game, and seeing two teams that a few weeks ago were laughing stocks and being like this are junk. These two teams are really turning it around, and I'm happy for them. So with that, San Antonio is favored at -3.5. Over under set to 38.5. Zach, what you got this week?
I've been going back. I've been waffling on this one. I've been going back and forth, back and forth. But you know what? I'm going to buy into the San Antonio turnaround here.
All
I
right.
really liked what I saw. Kellen Mond gave them some really nice stability
Yeah.
at quarterback last week. He played a pretty good game. I have him down for lost my box score, 14 to 20, 70% completion, 120 yards and a touchdown. Just did a really nice job of taking care of the ball. Anthony McFarland, as you mentioned, was great as per usual, second leading rusher in the league. Jacob Harris was good. John Drake Kirkland had a couple catches. Ward had a couple catches for them. So I really just like what they did offensively. They spread the ball around. You mentioned the O line was able to hold up against a very good DC defense. DC, I did it again. We do it every week. DC defense. Um, so for me personally, I'm going to buy into the San Antonio -3.5 here. Um, as for the over under, that's a high number. 38.5 is pretty steep for me. Just taking a look at last week's scores, 24 for San Antonio and 16 for Houston, and I guess that would have been over. I love the points. Give me the over. Who knows what's going to happen? I've really no rhyme or reason behind that. I'm just rooting for a good game here between two teams that are trying to figure it out. So I'm hoping we can see some points. So that's where I'm laying. Where are you feeling, Kyle?
Zach, I am being boring. I'm copying both of those. I think San Antonio is going to come away with the win. I think 3.5 is a pretty good line. Um, although I can see a world where Houston wins this one as well. I think again, these are two teams that have figured it out. Houston could come away with a win, but if I had to put my name next to one of these, it's San Antonio -3.5, and I'm taking the over. I think this is two defenses that aren't great. There's some cracks. Houston's is probably the best defense in this game, but even then, they can be scored on, um, especially if Mond gets his time in the backfield and being able to
Hmm.
pass it.
Hmm.
I'm taking the points. Yeah, give me the over as well. So San Antonio -3.5, over 38.5, coming from both of us. I think I feel really good about that, especially to wrap up the weekend here on this week five game.
Absolutely.
Real quick before I wrap up, I'm going to run through some DFS names for my boys out there. Getting a lot of ownership from Anthony McFarland in San Antonio, and quite a bit of ownership in Justin Hall, wide receiver for Houston. So this game, again, seeing a lot of points coming, seeing a lot of yards coming. I expect big things from McFarland, seeing a lot of him, and Justin Hall. So as much as that is DFS overall, that is strictly this Houston San Antonio game. So we're going to see a lot of action on Sunday, and I'm excited for it.
Should be a fun one.
So without further ado, thank you, Zach, for being here. Thank you for tuning in and listening. We are UFL Weekly, talking all things UFL weekly. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search UFL Weekly and you can find us. Logo looks like this if you are watching. But again, thank you for tuning in. Looking forward to week 5, halfway point of the season. Zach, it's a pleasure chatting with you.
Always is, my man. See you.